Tonight, public versus the police.
I mean, they could have been out, there's all sorts of crimes going on every single day, and yet they can come out to deal with two special needs people having a wee argument in a college.
Fighting crime or chasing targets?
They complain to me that targets are forcing us to criminalise a generation of young people. One police officer said to me, more and more we're arresting people. It makes the government look good, but we're arresting the wrong people.
We put modern policing on trial.
Members of the jury, your verdict. A split.
For 12 years I was a policeman. I know personally how complicated and demanding the role of a police officer can be.
Since I left the force 5 years ago, it seems many people are unhappy with the service they're receiving from the police, with complaints at their highest for 17 years. This week, one police force revealed that they are so busy on other tasks, they are unable to visit 4 out of 10 victims of crime. I'm going to investigate what's gone wrong and why.
We're going to look at 3 cases where members of the public who've had no previous criminal conviction have found themselves on the wrong side of the law. Each person feels they've been mistreated, so we've put together a Tonight jury of 12 men and women to discuss whether they believe the police acted appropriately. First case I'd like the jury to watch is that of Jamie Bold, who has Down syndrome. He's 19 and lives with his family in Scotland, where he attends college. A dispute arose with another student.
Jamie was coming home from college and he told me that the girl was following him about and staring at him. And I said, well, just, get up and walk away, never mind. And every day he came in, Mum, she's following me, she's staring at me. Just get up and walk away or go and speak to one of the tutors. And the day it happened, she was following him, and they got up and they went out into a different part of the college, and she followed him there. So he moved again, and she followed him there, and he said, go away and leave me alone. And as far as the college and everybody was aware, that was it. They had to phone home to tell the parents that they had spoken to, the two of them, but it had been dealt with and everything was fine.
But the parents of the Asian girl, who also has special needs, were not happy. She alleges Jamie racially abused and pushed her. He insists this didn't happen. Her parents decided to call the police.
Because there had been an allegation made by the parents of the girl, the police had to follow it up.
I feel upset. Well,
what did you think was going to happen to you, Jamie?
I don't want to get jail.
Do you think Jamie actually understood when the police were talking to him about what had happened?
There were 2 young police officers and they just kept saying all the time that they were only doing their job. So common sense should have prevailed then and that should have been it. Matter dropped, but it wasn't. It just went crazy.
But the police passed the file to the Procurator Fiscal's office, who decided there was sufficient evidence to proceed against Jamie for racial assault.
I just thought he was going to get taken away, and I couldn't believe it was all happening because it was so ridiculous. It's really so ridiculous. And I just couldn't believe it was happening to him.
The family waited for over 7 months to find out if Jamie's case would go to court.
We're dealing with Jamie as an adult and they wouldn't listen to us when we were trying to explain it.
Finally, in April this year, the family were told that no further action would be taken against Jamie, but they were not happy about how they were treated.
There's a lot of crimes going on every single day, and yet they can come out to deal with two special needs people having a wee argument in a college. I just thought, absolutely crazy. No need for it.
OK, very emotive. Your views on that one?
Jamie had special needs, so they should have taken that into consideration more and realised that he wouldn't fully understand what was happening and should have dealt with it more quickly if they could have.
I think the law is at fault in that once the incident has been reported to the police, they have to act on it. So you can't blame them. I think the law is at fault.
Surely wouldn't it have been better to get the two parents involved talking to each other rather than bringing the police in and making a big case of it?
Members of the jury, in relation to Jamie's case, your verdict. Thumbs up means the jury thinks the police did the right thing. Thumbs down means the police didn't handle it the way the jury would have liked. All 12 jurors felt this case was handled badly. Strathclyde Police told us the original complaint of assault was made to the police by the family of a vulnerable person. Strathclyde Police treat all such complaints seriously and, as part of its duty of care to the alleged victim, was duty-bound to investigate. The force is in discussion with Capabilities Scotland and Down Syndrome Scotland to see if there are any lessons to be learnt. The Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service said, after a detailed review, no proceedings were taken. The case was not concluded as quickly as we would have liked, and we have apologised to the family for the additional distress this caused. Harriet Sargent examined the role of the police service in a report titled Public versus Police. She found targets were a key issue of criticism by the public. We invited her to view our cases. She believed targets may have been a factor.
With Jamie, the police should obviously have investigated it, had a chat, and then gone away again. And I can assure you from what the police said to me, that's what they would like to do. I mean, they complained to me that targets are forcing us to criminalise a generation of young people. One police officer said to me, more and more we're arresting people. It makes the government look good, but we're arresting the wrong people.
We also invited the Police Federation to look at our cases.
Yeah, this is a good example of how the police can use this to obtain targets, to get ticks in the boxes. Common assaults are very easy for the police to deal with, and we've often seen the cases with particularly young people or children in playgrounds where two boys have had a fight. They both go down as victims, but similarly they both go down as offenders for a common assault. So the police have often used this in the last 5 years to obtain detections.
The Home Office decided to review the target culture of the police and commissioned the former head of the RUC, Sir Ronnie Flanagan, to report back on how things could be changed.
The Home Secretary immediately accepted one of the major recommendations in that there should be a complete culling of all the quantitative, all the numeric targets, and let's concentrate on one major target, public confidence, which we can measure. What is the level of public confidence? So that in such areas of what some people might call minor crime, but crime that very much affects the quality of people's lives locally, the police in these areas are working with the public to bring about solutions that hopefully satisfy everybody.
But we spoke to two whistleblowers who claim the new approach has yet to filter down. A sanction detection is when the police deal with the offender by way of a charge, caution, warning or fixed penalty notice.
If the sanction detected are such that I get a tick in the box and it's easier for me to get my managers off my back if I arrest you for pushing your friend's shoulder, rather than dealing with it another way, then I think is a very poor way of managing the service and providing a service to the public.
But the Home Office are now looking for alternatives to these unpopular targets.
What we're doing is getting back to giving police officers the confidence to exercise their professional judgment, exercise their discretion. So in some senses we're going back to how it used to be, perhaps in my day when I joined the police service. But it's wrong to say that targets per se are wrong. And targets produced some very good results, but the problem for me was they produced a lot of unintended outcomes when people felt the need to work to some targets rather than concentrating on the quality of service that they were delivering.
And now on to our next case. Jim McCullough firmly believes he is a victim of the police chasing targets. Jim is a single parent from Manchester. His 12-year-old daughter Jessica was misbehaving, and he had come to the end of his tether after she had been arguing with their neighbour.
The reason why they was banging on the window was just purely mischief, purely that they wanted something to do and they were just going to disturb somebody. I thought it was really serious that Jessica Moore didn't understand what she had done, and how far she was going with this problem behaviour. And that was kind of the last straw, really. I thought, I can't let her think that this is okay. and I really thought it's a shocker.
Me and my next door neighbour was having a little argument and everything, and we was knocking on a window, and then she started talking to my dad about it, and then we all just got in an argument. So my dad slapped me. Went up to my room and I phoned the police.
I slapped her across the face, and like I say, totally it's a shocker. You know, I've got 4 children up and never resorted to slapping the children. You know, it's never been a thing. I've always been against it. I explained why I'd done that, why I slapped her. We talked about the incident, and she really had a better grasp then of what the situation was. There was a knock on the door, and that's when Jessica said to me, "Dad, do you know what? I phoned the police."
It was just a shock. Didn't hurt or anything.
Jessica didn't realise the consequences of her actions, and without interviewing her, the police took her dad down to the police station.
When they actually arrested me for it, in my mind I thought, well, you don't really understand what's gone on. You've got to remember, I didn't have a criminal record, I haven't been in trouble with the police.
After several hours with the police, and having admitted slapping his daughter, Jim accepted a caution. The brief slap left no mark on Jessica's face, and he thought he'd done nothing wrong.
I still don't feel I committed a crime. I still don't feel I've done anything wrong. I was looking out for the best interest of my daughter because I love her so much. I would never ever hurt my daughter.
Jim has worked voluntarily in the community and was going to apply for a role as a sports development officer. Now he has a caution, he feels that particular career door may be shut.
If that case was taken on its merits, they've checked she's not injured, they've explained themselves, I just think it should have been left really as it was.
It's right that any 999 call made, the police have to follow it up, because if they hadn't have followed it up, what are the consequences?
I don't condone parental violence in any sense for parents' children, but I don't think it was really necessary for them to take him down to the police station. I think it would have been a lot better for everybody if they'd, given her some contact numbers of social services and numbers to call.
What did our jury think of the police involvement in Jim's case?
A split, so a complete divided. Some of you believing and feeling that the police dealt with it correctly, and some of you with strong views that the police didn't.
Greater Manchester Police told us a 44-year-old man was arrested and was later given a caution after admitting common assault. The man was offered legal representation, as all people who are arrested are, but declined. Had the offence not been admitted, officers would have pursued the matter with the Crown Prosecution Service. An allegation of domestic violence was made, and Greater Manchester Police officers always take these allegations very seriously.
I think anyone who watches that case thinks this is a system gone mad. I mean, here is a father obviously cares for his daughter, obviously wants to do the best for her, and yet he has been criminalised, whereas, goodness knows how many people are not worrying about their children, no one interferes with them. This is a complete waste of time.
I'm sure the officers in those circumstances as well probably would like to have dealt with it in a different way, probably using common sense, advising the family, working perhaps with the family.
Our whistleblower thinks cases like these are driving a wedge between the police and the public.
It certainly appears that we're criminalising, Middle England. You call for assistance, and if you get assistance and at the time you need it, that would be unusual nowadays, because we've targeted so much away from assisting to actually investigating and allegedly fighting crime. Your instant where you want assistance, depending on who you get, you might have someone who wants to get another tick in the box because they're chasing their targets.
But the reality of the police chasing targets is that many people have become criminalised and end up with cautions, often without realising how serious they are.
Cautions are usually given in relation to offences committed by first-time offenders. They're usually relatively low-level offences, and the important issue is that they have to be admitted by the offender. So the person who's arrested has to admit the offence to be eligible for a caution. It's essentially an alternative method of disposing of a criminal case at the police station, so the courts never have to be involved.
This is what happened to 21-year-old nursing student Kirsty Fitzsimmons. She was on a night out at a club and ended up embroiled in a row with a bouncer. She says the bouncer was quite forceful and she panicked and bit him. She thought she had only been defending herself and went to the police station for help.
When I first got to the police station, I went to report what had happened and just wanted to ask them if they would go down and speak to them and perhaps get my coat back. I'd never been in trouble with the police before in my life, so I had no idea of how things worked, apart from, say, watching the bill or something like that.
The police had also been called by the club and they were told a girl had bitten a bouncer. They went to speak to him and established that the bouncer's skin was broken by the bite. Kirsty spent the night in a police cell.
They said, do you want to wait to speak to a lawyer? And I was like, well, I don't know, what do you think I should do? And they said, well, it's probably rightly so. They said, well, we can't really advise you of that. And I was like, I really just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what a caution was.
She had no idea what the consequences of accepting a caution would be.
I was offered a caution and I took it because I wanted to go home. I just wanted to get on with my life and forget that night. It was horrible. And I thought it would be the end of it when I took the caution, but it's been the bane of my life ever since.
For the police, a caution means the case is cleared up there and then. Because Kirsty hadn't taken legal advice, she didn't realise this would remain on her record and would have profound consequences for her future nursing career.
Before the incident happened, I was planning to be a mental health nurse. These posts are subject to an enhanced CRB check, and my caution comes up with it. And when the NHS trust that I was training in saw this, they decided that regardless of the circumstances surrounding the caution, they weren't going to allow me to continue to train, nor would they ever hire me or allow me to train. When I accepted the caution, I had no idea that this would have such a vast impact on my life. And it's not just the impact that it's already had, it's my entire life now. It's there, behind me. Every job I apply for, it's there. And I never in a million years thought that something as simple as a caution would have such a huge impact on my life. It's just horrible.
To have her not do her nursing training and all that, I think to me is a bit over the top, really. It's too much.
I think quite definitely people should be allowed to forget something like that. There definitely should be an end to it. They shouldn't have it for the rest of their lives.
What did the jury think of how the police handled Kirsty's assault on the bouncer?
All bar 2 felt that the police dealt with it incorrectly. 2 felt the police dealt with it correctly.
Greater Manchester Police told us, in the early hours of the morning we received a call from a nightclub in Manchester city centre after a bouncer had been bitten. As a woman was being lawfully ejected from the club, she bit the bouncer, causing cuts, bruising and swelling. The woman turned up at the police station, was arrested and later accepted a caution. GMP works hard with all licensees in Greater Manchester to ensure pubs and clubs are safe and will take firm action against anyone who assaults security staff, as anyone who socialises in Manchester would expect. They also insisted this case had nothing to do with meeting targets.
I think the case of the nurse just highlights how disproportionate sometimes it can be to have a caution or conviction and how it can affect your career. She admitted biting the doorman, so clearly there was an assault. It may be alleged that it was an assault in self-defence. But nonetheless, she had a caution. Now, for that to affect her for the rest of her life may be viewed that it is totally disproportionate, and actually she's not a bad person. She just did something inappropriate at that time. Sometimes people do silly things, and maybe they need to have some sanction, but maybe not going through the criminal justice system, getting the criminal records number and having something that affects them for the rest of their life. So maybe we need to look at this.
The person has to consent to take the caution, and that consent has to be informed. So it's very important that the police fully explain all the consequences to the person in accepting the caution. Although it's not a criminal conviction, it is an admission of guilt, and a criminal record is created by the acceptance of a caution. Cautions have to be declared when applying for jobs, and they can, in some circumstances, potentially impact upon foreign travel.
Our 2 whistleblowers didn't want to reveal their identity for fear of consequences to their career, but one officer agreed to go public. He was concerned about an incident where officers were diverted from a rape to go after a minor offender to hit their monthly targets.
The person in custody had been caught in possession of items they couldn't properly explain, and a senior officer felt that it was worthwhile to divert the officers from the rape in order to get the detections for the thefts. And the detectives themselves totally frustrated because they were working on strong lines of inquiry in a rape investigation. And I think anyone applying any degree of common sense would say you must be investigating the rape to the fullest degree and as fast and as expeditiously as you can.
The government started out on the target path to encourage us, the public, to realise the police were in fact doing a good job in catching criminals. Many think the recent U-turn on target policy is because too many previously innocent people were becoming criminalised due to the target system. 4 police forces in the UK are currently piloting a new Home Office move away from targets, which means that the police are being encouraged to use their discretion.
Some people had concerns that this is such a cultural change that it will take a long time, but actually going back to the emerging results in the 4 pilot force areas, I am very encouraged by what is happening at a very explosive pace, and I'm therefore encouraged that it's not going to take as long as perhaps others might have feared.
But the police we've spoken to still feel the overall change will be a long time coming.
I've seen very little evidence so far that they are moving away from the target culture. My district commander put out an email the other day which basically consisted purely of detection rates and how well we were doing in regarding detections. There was no mention of how the public sees us doing.
I think the managers need to realise we're actually a police service, not a police business. And we've got too many tiers of bureaucracy treating it as a business rather than as a service to the public.
I'm not going to sit here and blandly say people have been unfairly criminalised. What I'm going to acknowledge is that too great a concentration on numeric targets has taken us away from concentrating on improving the level of confidence that the public at large should have in their police.
Most people in this country do not break the law. The police service works because the public believe the criminal justice system is both fair and open. However, target-driven culture has gone some way to damage the relationship between the public and the police, whom without our support and backing couldn't do the job. I believe the target-driven culture is slowly changing, but it'll be some time before the public are won over.
For more information on this evening's programme, visit itv.com/tonight. Coming up on Monday, card criminals uncovered. Morland Sanders with an undercover investigation to confront the criminals targeting your money.
And these have been ordered with fraudulent credit cards.
Oh,
yes, I'm just trying to get to the bottom as to what's going on here.
eBay shop, mate.
But you're ordering them, are you? You're ordering them, and I don't understand why you're using different names, and these are fraudulent credit cards.
Police acted appropriately. First case I'd like the jury to watch is that of Jamie Bold, who has Down syndrome. He's 19 and lives with his family in Scotland, where he attends college. A dispute arose with another student.
Jamie was coming home from college and he told me that the girl was following him about and staring at him. And I said, well, just, get up and walk away, never mind. And every day he came in, Mum, she's following me, she's staring at me. Just get up and walk away or go and speak to one of the tutors. And the day it happened, she was following him and they got up and they went out into a different part of the college and she followed him there. So he moved again and she followed him there and he said, go.
For 12 years I was a policeman. I know personally how complicated and demanding the role of a police officer can be.
Since I left the force 5 years ago, it seems many people are unhappy with the service they're receiving from the police, with complaints at their highest for 17 years. This week, one police force revealed that they are so busy on other tasks, they're unable to visit 4 out of 10 victims of crime. I'm going to investigate what's gone wrong and why.
We're going to look at 3 cases where members of the public who've had no previous criminal conviction have found themselves on the wrong side of the law. Each person feels they've been mistreated, so we've put together a tonight jury of 12 men and women to discuss whether they believe the Tonight, public versus the police.
I mean, they could have been out, there's all sorts of crimes going on every single day, and yet they can come out to deal with 2 special needs people having a wee argument in a college.
Fighting crime or chasing targets?
They complained to me that targets are forcing us to criminalise a generation of young people. One police officer said to me, more and more we're arresting people. It makes the government look good, but we're arresting the wrong people.
We put modern policing on trial.
Members of the jury, your verdict. A split.
Wouldn't leave me alone. And as far as the college and everybody was aware, that was it. They had to phone home to tell the parents that they had spoken to, the 2 of them. But it had been dealt with and everything was fine.
But the parents of the Asian girl, who also has special needs, were not happy. She alleges Jamie racially abused and pushed her. He insists this didn't happen. Her parents decided to call the police.
Because there had been an allegation made by the parents of the girl, the police had to follow it up.
I feel upset. Well,
what did you think was going to happen to you, Jamie?
I don't want to get jail.
Do you think Jamie actually understood when the police were talking to him about what had happened?
There were 2 young police officers and they just kept saying all the time that they were only doing their job. So common sense should have prevailed then and that should have been it. Matter dropped, but it wasn't. It just went crazy.
But the police passed the file to the Procurator Fiscal's office, who decided there was sufficient evidence to proceed against Jamie for racial assault.
I just thought he was going to get taken away and I couldn't believe it was all happening because it was so ridiculous. It's really so ridiculous. And I just couldn't believe it was happening to him.
The family waited for over 7 months to find out if Jamie's case would go to court.
We're dealing with Jamie as an adult and they wouldn't listen to us when we were trying to explain it.
Finally, in April this year, the family were told that no further action would be taken against Jamie, but they were not happy about how they were treated.